Good to see you all again. It's been just over a month I've been on a holiday in Europe, a wonderful holiday, where I had the privilege of seeing my first live America's Cup race. Went to the most marvelous Maritime Museum in Barcelona, and an even better one in terms of ship modeling in Lisbon, Portugal. When I was planning to go on this trip, I actually wrote to the museum and addressed my letter to the director, not expecting to have any special response. But to my surprise, Enrique Garcia Domingo, the director of the Barcelona Maritime Museum, responded to me and offered to be my guide, and it just was a magical encounter. He actually, not only was he the guide for most of the tour, but he actually took us into the back of the museum, into the archives, where a number of the archivists were restoring, in this case, some old flags. And then the final piece de resistance was attached to the museum, was a ship modeler's workshop, where the museum had made available to ship modelers this wonderful space, Dream Workshop. And two of the modelers actually came out, and even though there was a bit of a language barrier because I don't speak a word of Spanish, we all spoke ship modeling, wooden ship modeling. So the little half an hour or so I spent was absolutely fantastic, and I left very envious of the workshop and the workshop area. So my suggestion would be that if you're going to go on a trip and there is a maritime museum, take my advice and write to the director, and you might get the same quality of a present or a gift that I got. And it really made it so very special. The next unexpected present that I got was down at the Maritime Museum in Lisbon. It was not on my bucket list, and boy, should I have done some research before I went in there. It was absolutely fantastic. Just over 430 models in it, all beautifully displayed, set out by timelines starting in the early 1200s and going right up to modern days. This museum competes with the one in Annapolis that we visited in October last year, and I would say competes well. The models were beautifully laid out. Some of them might have touched a little bit of criticism, but overall these were absolutely fantastic models, and is well worth a visit. And when I got back, I had this lovely letter from one of our mutual friends in Canada who decided to give me a gift, because you remember there was a lot of negative views about how I was putting the ship's name on the stern of the boat. And this is positive criticism, but the truth is, at the time, it was the best I could do. And this was my present. It's the name of the Thorn scale to fit the back of the boat and to take in consideration the curve. So again, thank you very much for this wonderful gift. The gentleman quite rightly wants to remain nameless. So I'm going to save him from being inundated with a whole number of requests to do difficult and creative painting on our models. So let's get back to the purpose of these videos, which is ship modeling. And I've stuck the name on, and I did not go through the normal process that I would go through with you, where I would work on the left side and then perfect whatever I'm going to show you, and then film the right side. Because of course in the bow and the stern, there's no second shot at it. So it didn't give a lot of trouble. I've stuck it on. I use full strength PVA glue, because I didn't want, this is a paper backing, and I didn't want to affect the paper in any way, shape, or form. I had it slightly oversized, and then I took a very sharp knife and trimmed the edge. And now I've prepared the molding that's to go on the back. And I had to do some work to get it down to size. It was a little bit oversized, and I've got it down. I'm going to just touch up, because where I cut the paper is a little bit of the paper color coming through, to clean that up and then stick it. Another interesting challenge that I had with the artist who did this wonderful work, of course, he asked me what was the color, the background color that I was using. I told him Payne's Gray, and he said, well, send me up some samples of what your Payne's Gray looks like, which I did. And at the time I thought that was a strange question. Payne's Gray is Payne's Gray. Turns out my Payne's Gray was very different from his Payne's Gray. So he had to actually match and get a match so that when I touch up, which is what I'm going to do now, it'll be the same. So here's our first shot at that. And I'm just, in a sense, double checking that you won't see a difference. And in fact, here is his sample, and here is my Payne's Gray. And other than a little piece here that's still a little wet, there's absolutely no difference. So he did a fantastic job in matching my Payne's Gray. Again, I'm putting on full PVA. This will be under a little bit of pressure, and I certainly don't want it to come off. So I want to make sure it's stuck well. Again, why PVA? As you saw when I got a little bit on the front, it's water-based, can come off and leave no residue, which is one of the most important things you can do to avoid any issue. And I've cut it a little oversized, so when it dries, I will deal with the two ends. Of course, the other benefit of using PVA is that you have a working time of 3 or 4 minutes before there's any issue at all. And when you go to clamp these things, even though I practiced a little while ago how I was going to clamp it, it didn't work out how I planned it, and had to reclamp it twice. But there was no issue in terms of glue or mess. So I'm not going to take you through the glue up, you've seen that before. But I did again have to reduce the size of this molding down to scale. I have 2 spacers on either side so that I have the spacing correct, and a center one to pull it in and hold it in place. Again, the key is really to make sure that the spacing at the bottom of the ship's name is the same right throughout. We're sticking on paper, so again I took a utility knife, wherever it is. Take my word for it, I took a utility knife and scraped the edge of the paper so I would get glue down to the paper, not sticking on the paint. Common sense would say I should try and pin both ends, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to drill that to get a nice clean look inside for the pin, so I think I'm going to take the chance and not pin the molding in place and just hope that the glue is good enough to hold it. Well, I made a proper screw up of that. I decided I wanted to clamp it to pull this end a little more, and the whole bloody thing came out and made a proper mess of it. So I've done what I said I probably wasn't going to be able to do, which is got some pins and some bamboo skewers, and I've pinned it in. These are the smallest ones I have. And I'll restick it. I did mess up the painting a little bit, but again, coming back to matching the colors, fortunately I was able to get my Payne's grey out and retouch it. And so you can't see where I messed it up. But paper, you really have to be very careful when you're using paper, because you really only get one chance at it. I'm going to leave that now, and I'm going to leave it until tomorrow. I'm not going to touch the model again. I really want that PVA glue to set really hard before I come here and do any cleanup. It's all stuck now, and you can see the little pins, the bamboo skewers sticking out, and I've left this to dry real hard, and it really looks fantastic. It's been a long time to finally get the name of the boat in the style that the original would have been made. So again, special thanks to my Canadian friend for this lovely gift to the model. And at the same time, just so happens, a few days ago, the dry transfers arrived. These are from Woodland scenes. I picked them up on eBay. They were relatively inexpensive, although by the time they come to Trinidad, it's 3 times the cost of if I sent it to New York to my daughter. One of the main complaints that I got was that because of the curve of the stern piece, if you use letters that are relatively flat, you don't get that shape. So that's a fair criticism, and it would be noticeable to someone who has an educated eye that the bottom and top of the letters are not curved. But if you have a fairly straight stern, I think these would actually be totally acceptable. And this particular one, this one is Roman, and in terms of the quality of the letter, it's exactly the same style as that which was painted to me, which again reflects the style of the day. While I was on the trip, I did have quite a few machine failures. The lavalier mic that I used was making a lot of noise. The little clip that's you see here, I had soldered it 3 times, and then I ordered some what seemed to be the same clip from Amazon, and they were real garbage. So I went and ordered some of these clips from B&H Photo, which are the correct clips for the lavalier mic, and of course the correct foam, because these things don't last very long. I was also getting a lot of crackling on the microphone, so I ended up buying a whole new lavalier mic. And then when I was in there, decided, been looking at these for a while. This is a Rode mic. I can stick it up in the air or bring it down. It's very useful for podcasts. And the nice thing about it is it actually has a pair of earphones that I can put in and control the mic at the bottom here. So we'll see how this works out in terms of my other videos as we go along. Certainly I can put it above my head. You won't even see it because I've done the trials, and it works pretty good. So now that I've finished the signage on the boat, rather than add some other piece that I'm going to work on the model, I'll just bring it to an end. I will be practicing using the advice from my Canadian friend and trying to learn how to do lettering like this that follows the curve. But of course none of that is going to take away, because although I think some of them were horrified that I had gone to these dry transfer decals. Now that I've got these, seeing them, touching them, these are Woodland Scenic. I'll put a link on the site, on the video. Certainly if you've got flat surfaces and you want to put a name, there's no question that these are fantastic, and I will use them because it really looks so professional. So with that in mind, I think it's time I bring this to an end. Thank you again for your patience going through my journey in how to put the correct lettering on the stern of a ship, and I'll see you in the next video. And remember, as always, keep modeling.